Welcome back to our training, Get Found on Google, 4 strategies to get your church on the first page of Google search results. And we are on part 4. We're going to be talking about Google Places and Google Plus local pages today. So let's do just a little bit of review. Going back to the example we used last time, we did a search for Church Denver and got these results on a typical results page, and you'll have something very similar for your area if you're doing a search. So first of all, we talked about organic pages, or your actual website, and how you can raise that in the rankings through on-page and off-page search engine optimization. And then we also talked next about AdWords, and those are the ads appearing right there on the right. In this particular search result, we don't have any ads appearing on the top, but oftentimes they do. And then we today are going to be talking about local listings. And you're probably very familiar with these types of listings, but they always have the little flag pointers in the map. So as you can see here, and referring back over to the map. So the nice thing about these local listings is that they are very specific and relevant. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But just want to point out to you how these local listings work. We see in this first one that they are all of the examples are listing their actual website, which is a good thing. But you can also see where some have reviews and some have the stars. Depending on how many reviews you get, you will get stars as far as ratings. And you can see the one at the top is actually listing their Google Plus page, where you can link directly to that. So let's get started. What are the advantages of optimizing your listing, whether it's a Google Places page or a Google Local or Google Plus local page? Number one, it's relevant to the search. So Google is going to show these listings only when it's relevant. So if you are doing a search for a church in the area and you are in that area, your page, your listing would come up because that's what people are looking for. So being relevant is something that we're always interested in, is probably the theme you're getting tired of hearing about how everything's about being relevant with Google, and should be about relevance should be something that you're striving for. Limited to the local area, we mentioned that. You're not going to get your listing showing up for people generally all over the place. Now, if you're doing a specific search for a town like Denver, that will oftentimes bring up the listings. But generally, it's limited to the local area, which is a good thing. High in the results placement. You noticed it's very far up there at the top, and studies have shown the higher up your mentions on the search engine results page are, the more likely people are to click on them. And this is an interesting thing. One of the advantages, very few competitors. Now, when I say that, we're not talking about the universal church. We're competing against other churches necessarily, but most churches are not actually taking advantage of this. So if you are trying to be more relevant to your community, it may be easier than you think to get your listing to come up. So some surveys have been done with local businesses, and it may be as high as 85%, depending on your area, of local businesses are not taking advantage of optimizing their listings. I would think that is an even higher percentage among churches. I see a lot of churches that are not doing anything at all with their listing. Now, you notice if I'm saying they're not doing anything with their listing, Google is actually in the effort to be relevant, actually building listings for people on the fly. If they find information, whether it's on websites or in citations and directories, they will actually build a listing for you. So it's very possible that your church may have a listing already. But most churches are not taking advantage of that listing and actually verifying it. Just the act of verifying that listing will cause the listing to be more likely ranked. So very few people are actually taking advantage of that. So that would be helpful for you if you want to have your listing show up. And of course, no cost. There's no charge at all for doing this. So a great thing to do if you're on a budget, maybe you want to start with this from the 4 methods that we're going to be talking about. All right, a little bit of history just to understand what's going on here. Google Places for Business has been around for quite a while, a few years. And as I mentioned, Google had been actively filling in this information and putting listings in even when people didn't ask for them if they found that information on the web. So it's been around for a while, and a lot of people have taken advantage of it. But Google a while back noticed that Facebook was really kind of eating into their title as the be-all end-all of search and where people spend their time, which makes you can understand that Google's a little jealous of Facebook. If people are spending their time on Facebook, they're not doing searches or generating ad revenue for Google. So Google decided to start being more social like Facebook. Facebook is a social networking site. So Google came up with the Google Plus. Now you may or may not be familiar with it. If you're not, it's understandable. Google Plus is not real popular, at least when you compare social media. Google Plus is a lightweight in the number of people compared to Facebook. But that's okay because we're going to be talking about how this will help you in your Google rankings. So since Google is making their own social media network, Google Plus, it helps you if you can play along with Google and go ahead and get your Google Plus set up your account for your own personal account, and then be able to manage your Google Plus local pages. So Google came up with the Google Plus, and out of that, the Google Plus local pages were born. If you're familiar with the way Facebook has pages, Google Plus local pages are very similar in that respect. So how are these two listing? The Google Places listings and the Google Plus local pages, how are they different? Well, Google Places has your information on your church that you would put in, things like name, address, phone number, website. And I want to stress on that. You want to make sure, and I think we talked about this in the when we talked about off-page search engine optimization. You want to make sure that your directory listings and citations all have that information exactly the same. And I would even add phone number in there also. Try to keep that information across the board, wherever it's mentioned, the same. And this goes for your Google Places listing or your Google Plus local page. So you want to make sure that your name, address, and phone number is exactly the same everywhere it's mentioned. You don't want to game the system. You don't want to come up with a name of your church that is not necessarily what your name is, by putting in more keywords that you think people are going to be looking for. But church information is going to be something that's going to be found in your Google Places listing. Also, you have the option of uploading photos, and people can actually make reviews of your church right there. So that's something to keep in mind. So how does that compare to Google Plus local pages? Well, you have church information, you have photos, you have reviews, but you have some more social interaction features in your Google Plus local pages. As you would imagine, Google is, if they are trying to compete with Facebook in this realm, they want to have the opportunity for more interaction. So you have the opportunity to put posts. You can put videos on your Google Plus local page, and you can actually have followers. So the more followers that you have, the more likely your page will be to be listed. Now, as far as the listing goes, they should look the same, but we'll talk about that in a little bit here. So Google Places listing, if you want to go through that realm, through that route, it's very likely you may already have a listing. If your church has been around for a while, let's say you are listed in the yellow pages, or you've had the same location for many years, there's a good likelihood that you may already have a listing. So you just, you may even have run across it. If you have, you just want to claim the listing, and then you want to manage it at google.com/places. And that would be a good way to do that. So Google Plus local pages, how would you go about that? Well, you would definitely want to consider starting with Google Plus local pages if you do not have a Google Places page. Now, this would be great for startups, and also there may be some folks listening to this that are in situations where you don't have a permanent location yet. And if that's the case, it's very likely that you may not have a listing because you're meeting maybe in a local school or a reception area, or you're renting a space just on the weekend. So you may not have a place because Google couldn't necessarily find you on a map. And you can also use your Google Plus local page to merge your existing places page, and then you'll be able to do all your management from one place, which is going to be very convenient. So I'm thinking you probably, if you're just starting out, you want to focus on the Google Plus local page aspect. So what are the steps? Well, you start with a personal Google Plus account. It's really easy to do, and we'll show you what an account looks like in a little bit here. And you want to add a local page to that account. It's a very easy process, and we'll walk through that in a demo. And then you want to fill in all the information. And the last step, you want to verify. So once you've verified, Google has some methods to get in contact with you to verify that the information is indeed correct that you put on. They verify that you're not some spammer that's building a fake location. And they will do that either by calling the phone number listed, or they will be sending a letter with a PIN number to the address. So not an easy way to fake that. If you make an empty lot, your Google Places page or your Google Plus local page location, no mail can be delivered there. So that's how Google will be verifying that you actually are a physical entity. So a couple of tips to think about here as you're going through this. You want to make sure you fill out all of the information. You can get by with just a little bit of information, but the more information that you fill out, the better. And you want to upload photos with keyword titles. If you're taking pictures with your digital camera, as you're saving them on your computer, most likely the titles for these photos would be just numbers and letters. You want to put in information that's actually relevant into the titles, and that's what you want to use to upload. It may not be seen, but Google sees that, and the more keywords, the better. Remember, we want to be relevant. And you want to get reviews. And that may be more difficult than you think, because it's not like Field of Dreams like we talked about in your search engine optimization for your site. If you build it, they will not necessarily come. So you kind of have to work towards getting your reviews. And how do you do that? I'm going to give you a link in the resources below to a review handout generator that WhiteSpark has put together, which works really well. Just fill in the information, and you can generate a PDF that you can print out and hand out yourself, or you can email it to folks. Now, I would caution you, don't go crazy. Don't have a Google plus local page review Sunday, where you hand out this information to everybody in the church and tell them to go do a review. Uh, that would look very odd to Google, and they may actually give you negative ratings for that. But I would say just start with the leadership in your church. Give this information on the handout to your church leadership and get them to give you a review. They'll have to get on to Google Plus first. It's not a difficult process, but once they do that, they can do a review, and they can even follow the page. So if anything happens, they'll be able to see it. Now, granted, if they're already doing their social media interactions on Facebook, they may not spend a lot of time on their Google Plus page or their Google Plus account. That's okay. They don't necessarily have to. But as things over time, people that are in the church that may have some things, glowing reviews some wonderful things that they've said, and you probably know who those people are already, just thinking off the top of your head. You might want to just say, hey, would you mind giving a testimony, basically, what you think about how what this church has meant to you, or if you're an organization like a camp or a daycare or a school, how the organization has impacted your life, and give them the handout. It's a step-by-step on all that they have to do to be able to give that review. All right, so now we're going to flip over to demo. So let's just get here to the end, and we're going to flip right over here to Chrome. And the first page we're on, google.com business/places. You can actually get here by going to google.com/places. And if you want to work your listing this way, you can. You just click on the Getting Started, and you would get your listing. What I'm going to do is give you an example here. This is the church that I attend, and we don't have a listing. Part of that is because we are meeting in a rental space. We are a church startup. So if you were to do a search, Grace Baptist Fellowship, Greenville, South Carolina, I think it's interesting. We have our website right here. And with that keyword, you would think, obviously these pages that are on our website are rich in those keywords, so it's listing a lot of these site links below it. And some people, they ask, how can we get more of these site links underneath our website when it's seen in the search results? And the answer is have more relevant pages to that search result. Now, it's interesting that even though I have Grace Baptist Fellowship, Greenville, South Carolina, that's our exact name, it's actually listing some other churches in the area. And we see right down here, here's our local listing. And you can see that we're not showing up. We have some other churches in the area, Grace Baptist Church here, 2 other churches in different locations in the area, but not ours, even though we are the exact match for that keyword search. So if we're going to have any hope of having a listing like this, we're going to have to actually go out and make it happen. So we're going to walk through setting this up, and we'll see how this goes. So the first thing you need to do when you're going through this is to make yourself a Google Plus personal account. And to do that, you just go to plus.google.com and get started there. Once it's fairly simple and straightforward. Once you do that, you'll be able to have an account which will look something like this. And you could use this a lot like Facebook. You can put posts on here and things that are going on. And I mentioned to you, if you are a pastor or the head of an organization, it probably would be in your best interest to have this set up. I would put your photo in and information about you. And there's also places in this account where you can put in relevant websites, and that's where you would definitely want to put your church or organization website right there. So once you have gone through this part, to get your listing for your page, your Google Plus local page, we're going to go over here to profile. We're going to go down here to pages here on the left, and you can see I do have one page that was started a while back that Google kindly migrated to my Plus account. I'm going to create a page right here on the right, and we'll get something here. Now, if you've ever created a page on Facebook, you have a very similar type of an interface that comes up. Now, for a listing, in order for a listing to appear in searches, it's very important that you use the local business or place. If you have a product or service or things or an organization that's not necessarily local, you have more of a worldwide reach, you might want to think about some of these other options. But for us, when we are talking about getting found in Google search results, if you want to be in the listings for the local search, you definitely need to be choosing local business or place. So we're going to choose that. This is just letting me know I have not used this yet. So I'm going to click yes, okay, I agree, and you may get the same thing. So it's going to ask to search for a business. And what I'm going to do is put in the name. Grace Baptist Fellowship, Greenville, South Carolina. And you can see it's not finding anything. Let's just go down and make sure. And since none of these are correct, we're going to go to, none of these are correct. So we're going to start a new listing. So if you happen to get that first one and it did find a listing for you, you would want to claim that listing right away, and then you'd be well on your way. But if you're like the situation with our church, you don't have any information, we're going to put this in right now. So United States, street address, and I've got this all written down on a little cheat sheet here. All right, and city, state, SC, and 29609. All right. Here we go, and it's showing up on the map right there. That's exactly where the location is, so that's good. So we're going to put the main business phone, which is the one that's listed on the website. So we want to make sure that that is the same. Let's just format this a little bit differently. So for the categories, we want to put down that we're a church. If we start typing, let's type church, and it's going to drop down for more relevant searches. So you can see that there's all different types of churches. So Google is going to give you lots of options there. So we're going to choose, too far, Baptist Church. And you don't need to check this because you're not delivering goods or services. This is for businesses that are not necessarily have a particular location that still want to be in the Google Plus local. So we're going to submit that information right now. And we're going to verify by postcard. Now we could do continue and verify later. But I'm going to go ahead and click here, verify by postcard. Now what's going to happen is a postcard will be sent to this location, 22 Graves Drive. Now we have a pretty good relationship from the people that we rent from, so mail gets sent there, so shouldn't be a problem for us to verify this. Now if you want to do faster, you could just do continue and verify later, and there would be a way to verify that once you have finished everything and you're reviewing the page as it actually appears, you can verify it, and it may give you the option to verify by a phone call, and you would receive then an automated computer generated phone call that would call your number, and they would read a PIN to you. So if you do decide to go that route, you want to just say continue and verify later. I'm going to go ahead, let's say continue and verify later, and we'll set that up. We'll show you how that works. So congratulations, get started. Now I could just open the page right now, but let's just get started and see what we have here. Okay, so we're going to say what we can do next. People want to hear about you, engage with people by asking a question or sharing. This is just some information, kind of a tour around what your pages does. Make sure you get noticed. Review notification settings. So you can set your settings so that every time somebody does post something like a review, you will get notified, which is a good thing, because if it's a negative review, you might want to fix that. And you can change your identity. You can change your profile photo. All right. Okay. All right. Share on Google Plus. So I'm just going to put this my church. We can make it public, and we can share it right there. So there we are. Now we've got this shared, so we could view it. And we can see, let's see, here's our information. Let's scroll down here to edit the business information. And you can see this is what I wanted to show you. You see this green bar. This shows how complete your business information is. And you can see right here your edits won't show up in our local listing unless you verify that you're business owner, which we need to do. So we can verify that in a little bit. All right, so we'll just go through here, make sure everything's correct. Oh, well, here's something we can fix right here. Got a typo. Save that. All right, we got the phone number, Baptist churches. We could enter the hours, so if we wanted to put our service times, we could do that. And a description. And I would encourage you to fill this out as completely as you can. So you could put in all of the hours that you're going to be meeting if you have multiple meeting times. If you have an early service, a late service, in the case of our church. So that would be something for us. Depending on what time of year, because we are in a college town, we have a lot more college students coming during part of the year. So we are at 2 services in the morning. So that would be something that we'd have to look at possibly editing and changing so that people don't come to an early service when we're not actually having it. But in the description, you'd want to put your hours of your service time, Sunday school, church services, Wednesday night services, things like that. You want to post those on. Description, you want to put a good description on here, and remember that every word that you write is a keyword, so you want to put a full description. Now you can put quite a lengthy description on here, I believe up to 5,000 words. I wouldn't necessarily do that much of a description. You could keep it down to 200 or so, and right now I'm not going to put anything in, but I definitely would mention that you should be doing that. So when we're done editing, go here, And here we go. So let's click on this page. All right, so now we're on our page. We can see what it looks like. All right, so we can change our cover. We can upload a photo. So I'm going to select a photo from my computer, and I have one happens to be right here. I'm going to use this black logo. That'll upload. Oh, too small, so I'll have to go back and get something that's a little bit bigger. I believe it has to be at least 250. Yep, 250 pixels square, and I think we would get the same thing. I'm just going to hit cancel here, but I would definitely have you put in a logo here, and I'll be changing that later, not in the sake of for this. And you would want to put a relevant cover right here. We could change the cover, and I think you could choose something from their categories, but ideally you would want to put something in here that was relevant, like an exterior picture of your church, so people know when they get there. Now, since we don't have a building, in our case, we would put something else, but maybe something that we're promoting at this particular time. And I'm going to, just for the sake of having something to show you how that works, you would put that in, and you can crop it however you would like, and you can see that that's going to maintain the same aspect ratio. So that would work. Let's see if that would work. And there we go. Profile saved successfully. Let's put that. There we go. That fills it out a little bit better. The other one's too small, so it didn't fill out. Now, this is not going to be a relevant cover for us because that has nothing to do with our picture. So we're going to make a change to that after we finish with this demo, because yeah, we do want to be relevant. Now, I encourage the folks that are in your congregation that are on Google Plus to give you a +1, and what that basically means. That's kind of like Facebook like, if you're familiar with Facebook terminology. So that's how that works. All right. So once you have done all of this, we're going to verify. So we're going to go to verify now, and yeah, it is just giving us that listing for postcard. Now, if you have on your Google listing, Google Pages listing, you may have your phone number there. That may allow you to do a verification by phone. And if you're in a hurry, that would definitely be a faster way to do it. Verifying by postcard, it's going to take 7 to 10 days for that postcard to get you. It says right here 1 to 2 weeks. And we're just going to leave that information. Grace Baptist Fellowship. All right. Going to say send postcard. And there we go. So right now the listing is unverified. Our page is unverified. People can still find it if they are on Google Plus, but it's not going to show up a lot of places in on search results. And our goal is to be found on search results. So we'll click continue. And hopefully you'll find that to be worthwhile for you. If you follow those steps, you should have your page, Google Plus local page, with your listing showing up shortly in Google search results. Once you get some reviews going to it, place some links, share some information. If you have things like sermons on sermon audio, you could link to that. If you see something that's a relevant article, you could link to that. If you have a blog on your regular website, you could definitely link to that blog through the link right here. Whenever you have a new listing or a new post on your blog. But just keep it fresh. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, and this is something that you can outsource. And that's something I'm glad I mentioned that to myself. Right over here where it says managers, right now it's showing me as the owner. I can add managers, and then I can actually put people in the church. I'll definitely put our pastor and some of the folks that are helping out with some of these tasks here in the church, and make them managers so that they'll be able to make changes with photos and do uploads and postings and all that type of thing. So that'll be a great thing to do to spread out the work a little bit. So if you have some people in your church that are interested and able to do that, definitely add them in as managers. So as always, if you have any questions on this demo, please put them in the comments below and we'll try to answer those as quickly as we can. So hopefully you found that process not too overwhelming. It should be a pretty straightforward step-by-step, and you'll be able to get your listing going in no time.